Welcome everybody to the Actors Academy, and thank you for tuning in today. So we're going to be talking about memorizing your lines. Now, if you've ever seen a big movie, or if you've seen a TV show, or if you've seen a play, and you're seeing how do these actors memorize all these lines for an hour long, hour and a half, 2 hour long performance, there's a lot of tricks to it actually, and I want to give you those tricks today. The typical thing that a lot of people would do, like if I give you lines to memorize right now, a lot of you would just take the piece of paper, you would look at it, and then you would just read it over and over and over again, hoping that your lines get down and they get memorized. Now that is a process, and it's not a bad process because it does work for a lot of individuals. But we also have to realize that it's not the only process. And my job and my hope and goal for this specific video is to be able to increase your memorization process faster. So you can memorize not just more lines, but you can also memorize them faster. That's the goal of this video, and that's what I hope to give you today. So this first one that I want to give you is to have your lines get recorded onto your phone using voice memos and then listen to it on loop over and over and over again. The reason that this helps you with the memorization process is because we've done this before without even realizing it. If you've ever heard a song on the radio before, imagine your favorite song. Do you know all the words to your favorite song? Probably you do. Now, did you know it on day 1 when you heard it on the radio? No, you didn't. Did you know it on day 2, day 3? No, probably not. But at some point in time when you listen to it now, you got all the lines down. But I bet you never did this. I bet you never got home and went onto Google and you typed on here and you said, okay, I need to know all the words to this song. And then you tried to memorize it all night long. You never did that. What happened was that you heard it on loop over and over again, and then it built into your subconscious, and now all of a sudden you know all the lines. Well, guess what? You can do the same thing with your acting. When you have the text, whether it's for a monologue or speech, whatever it may be, listen to it on loop and it will build into your subconscious, and then you're gonna naturally get your lines memorized. Point number 2 is to read your lines before you go to sleep. Then when you wake up the next morning, the very first thing you do, don't go and look at your phone, don't go to the bathroom, don't brush your teeth, get up and start saying the lines that you tried to memorize the night before. You will be surprised how much of the lines you have down simply because you went the night before, worked on your memorization, and then when you woke up, for whatever reason, those lines, they stay stuck in your head. Your subconscious is really building those lines into yourself. Point number 3 is called image to text. So I learned this when I was in drama school from one of my instructors who went to NYU. And how this process works is literally going and having an image form in your head for memorizing these lines. So some of us are very visual learners, and if you're a visual learner, this is going to help you a lot. So let's say we had the lines to be or not to be, and you have to go and memorize these lines. Well, how this process works is for each word, literally each word, you are going to assign an image to it. So you really need to find a space where you're not going to be distracted. And what I do is I would close my eyes and then I would say each word and then assign an image to that word. So for example, in to be or not to be, I would say to. The first word is to. Now for me, to memorize that, to put an image to it, I would think of, okay, the number 2. And then be, well, I might think of a bumblebee. To be, and then when I have the word or, then I would assign an image to that. Literally, every single word, you are assigning an image to it. And when you go through this process, you'll find that, oh wow, you are able to memorize more of your lines. Or if you find that you get stuck at a certain moment and you need to pick up your lines again, an image will pop into your head and it will help you even when you get lost in your own text. This is a big one. This is one that I actually still use all the time, even today. Now I will say that this process will feel like it is taking a little bit more time because you're sitting down, your eyes are closed, and you're going through one word at a time. And even though it may feel like it's a long time, it actually is quicker for your memorization process, because during that time you will get so much more of the text memorized in your head compared to if you're just reading it again over and over and over again. It may feel long, but it actually does help speed up the process. Tip number 4 is to paraphrase your lines. Now, this one typically works when you have a little bit more of an idea of what's happening in the scene. So it requires you to read over the scene a few times. Maybe you read it through it 5 times, maybe it's 10 times, and you're working on trying to memorize it a little bit as you can. But then the next thing you have to do is you have to realize, okay, what is actually happening in the scene? What is going on? If you just try to memorize the lines without actually knowing the story or knowing the intentions or the meaning behind why some words are even said, it just all of a sudden becomes blank words that you're trying to memorize. It's all of a sudden like you're trying to memorize just random numbers on the wall. Well, when you're not memorizing random words, your words have a sequence because they're creating a sentence. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're really understanding every sentence that is being said. And the best way and quickest way just to build that first understanding is to go and literally paraphrase what you're saying. So for example, if we use the monologue from Henry V, once more into the breach, dear friends, once more. If you had to go and paraphrase that, maybe maybe it would be, instead of using the Shakespearean lines, you would say, one more soldiers, one more, and we just need one more chance to win this. But that is your way of going and paraphrasing your lines, paraphrasing your text. You're just trying to go and find the understanding, because when you have more understanding of your lines, trust me, it's so much easier to memorize it. Tip number 5 is to go and write down your lines. So the reason that this one helps is because you're actually also taking a physical action. You're not just, okay, here's the lines, you're looking at it, and then you're writing it down. You're doing a physical action that is going to help you within that memorization process. I've had to do this a lot before. This especially helps when you have large chunks of text. So if you have a big monologue that you're going to have to work on and you're really trying to get these lines memorized and have them solid, well, literally go and write the monologue down, write it out. Maybe you have to write it a few times, but when you write out the process, it really starts building more into your psyche, it builds more into you, and then the lines get a lot easier to memorize. Tip number 6, this one is called walking the grid. So walking the grid, I learned this one also in drama school. You have to imagine that there is literally a grid on the floor. Imagine in your room, in the space where you're at right now, there is a grid on the floor. So grids have very straight lines. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna have your text and you're gonna be walking in one direction, saying your lines out loud. Now, when your character changes thoughts, because the thoughts will change based on the text. So if somebody says, I love you, you're amazing, and then they say, oh, you're the worst person in the world, okay, well, that's a change in thought. So what's going to happen is you're going to say your lines, you're going to be just moving in one direction on that grid. And then when your character has a change in thought, you're going to shift and move in a completely different direction. You can choose which direction it is as long as you're staying on the grid. Now, the reason that this is actually helpful for actors is because it allows you to realize where the change in thoughts are happening within your scene. Again, we don't want it to just be random words on the wall that we're trying to memorize. These words make a sequence. When we understand that sequence, it is much easier for us to understand the text. And this is one way that we can do it, and it's also very physical because it requires you to get up and actively move, and it makes the process for memorization a whole lot easier. Tip number 7, this is one, if you've been to the Actors Academy here before, you have heard me say this one many times before in the past. I've been saying this one for years. It is doing a second activity while you are working on memorizing your lines. To really get your lines down and to really own them, do something else while you are memorizing your lines. When you put so much attention on the text itself, it can get you wrapped in your head a little bit too much. You have to have a barrier, a little bit of a distance for it. So what I would suggest is just do any second activity. You could be fixing the chain on your bike. You could be having a ball, throwing the ball in the air and catching it as you're saying your lines. And that can be one of the easiest things to do. Again, it's a second activity. You're throwing the ball, you're catching it, you're focusing on not dropping that ball, but you're also doing your lines at the same time. This can really help on solidifying your lines, really getting it down, and not just kind of knowing your lines, but it really solidifies this process. Number 8 is to write the first letter. So let's say you have this big chunk of text that you're working on. Let's just say it's a big monologue that you have. So one of the easiest things to do is to just literally go on a piece of paper, write out by hand the first letter of each word. So for example, for the speech to be or not to be, it would be to be or not to be. Well, the T is going to be there for to, B for the word be, O for or, N for not, and so on and so forth. Now, when you do that for yourself, it's going to be kind of a guide map in order to get you back into your text. Sometimes all you need is you just need to have one word to get right back into the speech. If you've ever taken an acting class before and you've heard someone call out line, that's when they forget their text. They go, oh my God, to be or not to be, line. And then somebody will say the first one or two words, all of a sudden, then they can get right back into the speech, because sometimes that's all you need is just one or two words. And having this as your mini cheat sheet, just the first letter of each word, is really helpful, and again, quickens our memorization process. Number 9, and our last tip. So when it comes to memorization, we're trying to do everything we can to get our memorization down. Sometimes it's using the subconscious. Sometimes it's going and actually saying our text over and over and over again to get it down. Another way is to really physicalize our text. So one of the things that I suggest doing is to go and exaggerate everything that you're doing. Exaggerate the words, how you're saying the words, put extra emphasis onto it. If there's a speech that you're giving and you're supposed to be angry or mad, be extra angry, be extra mad. Do it over the top. Do it as if you were a great Shakespearean actor. It is okay to overdo it in this sense, because you're not working on the performance element of it. You're not saying, hey, this is how I'm going to perform this monologue or this scene. You are just doing it specifically to get your memorization process down. The whole goal for this is to allow you to be able to memorize a larger chunk of text, but also to be able to increase the speed at how long it takes you to memorize your lines. So I hope you all liked this video. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you were able to gain something from this. Having these 9 different tips that you can actually go and use to work on your memorization process. And look, maybe you're not an actor and you just need to know, hey, how can I go and memorize these lines? Maybe it's numbers you have to memorize. Maybe it's a speech that you have to give at school for whatever reason that may be. These will help you. This is what we did in drama school. This is what many actors do in order to get their lines memorized, especially if you have 125 pages worth of text. You got to be able to figure out, how am I going to memorize these lines? These processes will not only help you memorize more lines, but it will also help you memorize these lines much quicker. So thank you again for everybody for tuning in today. If you're interested in our 10-hour acting masterclass, our 2.0 version, that's always going to be linked down in the description down below and also in the comment section, really to go and just improve your acting, take it to the next level, be a part of a great, amazing community. And if you like this video, then you're really going to love this video right over here. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.